The benefits of forgiveness. This is the third talk on wholeness and love. How do we reach it? And I've titled it The Benefits of Forgiveness. The first talk was Reaching Wholeness through Forgiveness and Love. The second was How do we forgive? And this is the third, The Benefits of Forgiveness. Many insights have come out of research about how to forgive, but there is no fixed way to go about forgiving. Some models of forgiveness have been developed, as well as ways to understand the forgiveness process, since the benefits of forgiveness are well known. One of the models of forgiveness is the process model of forgiveness. It offers a four-phase model designed to help individuals forgive. The first phase is the uncovering phase. The second phase is the decision phase. The third is the work phase. And the last part of the process is called the deepening phase, where the person finds meaning in the overall forgiveness process. In the uncovering phase, the person tries to understand what happened. In the decision phase, the person decides whether or not to forgive. The work phase is when the actual process begins. The last phase, the deepening phase, is when there is meaning found in the process which the person has undertaken. Another model is the wheel of forgiveness. The wheel of forgiveness proposes that the process of seeking forgiveness taps at least three dimensions: being able to grasp the point of view of the victim, experiencing remorse for the transgression, and offering or attempting reparative actions like making an apology and or attempting restitution. Another model has identified three types of transgressors: self-forgivers, condoners, and self-punishers. Those who resolve their negative feelings by not taking responsibility for their actions are condoners. People who inflict upon themselves prolonged, intense negative emotions are self-punishers. People who accept responsibility for their actions and resolve their negative feelings are self-forgivers. The benefits in forgiving are that it makes life easier for the person who forgives. It also makes it easier for the forgiver to get on with life, not ruminate, and constantly dwell on the wrongs that have happened to him or her. This does not imply that reconciliation has taken place, although if reconciliation does take place, it would complete the process. There may be many barriers that could block forgiveness from taking place. These barriers may include overwhelming negative emotions, fear that the transgression will be repeated, assumptions that one needs to forget if one forgives, and fears of appearing weak. In some situations, there may be a strong belief that justice will not be served by forgiving and that the transgression is unforgivable. Sometimes the status of being a victim confers certain benefits which would be lost if one forgives, like the right to criticize, the right to retaliate, the right to seek compensation, or the right to hold some moral advantage over the perpetrator. Forgiveness means letting go of pride. It is important to help all involved to recognize the need to move towards being survivors and the freedom rendered by forgiveness. Remembering past mistakes and what has been learned from them is important if one wants to avoid making them again. Therefore, maintaining appropriate boundaries, trust, responsibility in remembering the past and keeping the change, and the demonstration of competence in maintaining these is necessary and important. Forgiveness, whether looked on from the spiritual, religious, or secular point of view, has been associated with a variety of physical, mental, and relational benefits. If the believer is willing to take responsibility for reparative action, believing that there is the perception of a solution, with the hope that God will transform the individual, he or she would want to forgive and work towards wholeness. Thus, by forcing attention away from the self and its grievances, the self and the other is seen with clearer eyes. Forgiveness entails giving up an undesirable response towards an offender and changing it towards a benevolent response, recognizing that forgiving is a process that can take time and attempting to bring in love. When the person constructs a new understanding of the whole situation of self and the person who is offended, the stance of forgiveness becomes stabilized. One can add something good to what is bad, and one can reduce the amount of bad in what is bad, resulting in spiritual and psychological growth. Thus, there is a deepening of character and a more careful consideration of relationships. Given the numerous benefits of forgiveness, spiritual directors, counselors, and psychologists have sought to understand factors that might promote or hinder forgiveness and interventions that could be used when working towards wholeness. Some ways I will now present. The first is apology. A therapist, a spiritual director, a counselor could enable the healing process by helping the offender open space to extend a genuine apology by recognizing blocks to forgiveness and reconciliation. A genuine apology recognizes the harm done and the injustice involved. It is an acknowledgement of the losses and painful experiences of the victim, an expression of deep regret and remorse, and an honest willingness to take restorative action. It allows for the start of love developing again in the relationship. The second is trust. The therapist, the counselor, or the spiritual director can help the client examine what might have to be done in recreating trust. In order to trust the offended has to believe that the offender has good intentions towards him or her. Also, the offended has to believe that the offender has sufficient ability to act effectively to implement forgiveness. The third is healing and forgiving. Forgiving leads to healing and addresses the whole forgiving person. It may be of an episode or many times. Healing helps individuals empathize with offenders as part of the forgiving process. An understanding of hurtful behaviors in context, rather than generalizing the hurtful behavior to a threatening view of the social world, would help in bringing out wholeness. If love results, it helps cement the relationship. Daily forgiveness is another way. Clients are directed to try to release their anger over present or past hurts. Clients can reenact painful life experiences in session to verbalize their disappointment and anger, and to let go of their anger by voicing their desire to forgive others or themselves. It helps the client forego the need for revenge or retribution. It necessitates evoking self-love and developing love for the other. A final way, and there are many other ways, but for now, This is the final way that I would like to talk about community signs and symbols. Pastors and church leaders should be encouraged to designate a certain time of each week, of each year, of each day, to emphasize the virtue of forgiveness and to be creative in the implementation of the forgiveness programs for long-term positive results. In conclusion of these three talks, I would like to say that a belief in God has a profound effect on forgiveness, as without God, there is no absolution. God cares for his children and loves them, ensuring that past deeds not imprison the present or the future. God makes possible a transformation in character seen in forgiving behaviors acted out in society. God's command to love provides the necessary paradigm for understanding love and forgiveness, as they are inextricably connected all throughout Scripture and converge on the cross of Christ. Rituals, spaces, and spiritual practices, stories and forgiveness in sacred texts, liturgies, songs, sermons, stained glass, sculptures, and countless other ways provide resources that encourage forgiveness. They are useful for making sense of our mundane experiences and relationships. Ultimately, it is for the person offended to go out and forgive. God, who is characterized by loving kindness and forgiveness, plays a central role in a Christian perspective of love and forgiveness, as God's command to love provides the necessary paradigm for understanding love and forgiveness. Thus, a loving and forgiving stance results in wholeness.